Welcome to my humble little office. My name is R. Keith Andrews. I am a spiritual guide and paranormal adept. The journey continues today on June 2nd, 2021 at approximately 9:19 p.m. PST. Now, I've talked about it a lot, about this issue of correcting your life, and by getting rid of the negative things in your life. What happens is you take all that negative out of your life, it'll make you more relaxed and more capable of coping with the stresses in other people's lives. Okay, now, I don't know if you've ever run into this before, but I know when my world isn't working properly, number one, I don't sleep properly. I don't tend to relax all that well. Net result, I don't have the tolerance for the problems I'm seeing out in the world. Okay, but when you get the negative things out of the way, when you get the energy in your house running properly, you'll find things are a whole lot easier to work with. Well, had to pause that for a second. I was about to cough. But the reality is, if we concentrate on the things that are good, okay, because I'm a firm believer that 90 to 95% of people out there are decent people, okay, and yet, when we take a look at what is put out on the media, and I don't mean just the mainstream media, I mean Facebook, Twitter, what seems to be happening is people are so caught up in reporting all the heinous things going on, they forget to point out the celebratory things. Okay, now this is propagated throughout the world, whether we're talking media, social circles, Christian, the religious sectors, whether we're talking mainstream religion or what they call the fringe elements, or the New Age stuff, which, by the way, the New Age is a whole lot older than the modern. Okay, but they all talk about, let's spread all this negative stuff. Let's talk about fear. Let's talk about destroying a whole pile of things. I mean, I find it absolutely bizarre that humans have degraded themselves to the point that they think destroying artwork that commemorates different things that happened in history, by destroying that artwork, is going to actually alter the history. Okay, it doesn't work that way. The events have taken place. The only thing that happens when you destroy artwork, when you destroy these monuments to events, whether you like the events or not, doesn't matter. They still happened. And the only thing destroying them does is say that whoever destroyed them had no understanding of the way that history works. Destroying a marker of it, for instance, destroying a photograph, does not change the event that happened. It only changes the record of it. Okay, now there's a saying that goes, those that don't know history are doomed to repeat it. Problem is that those that dwell on history have exactly the same problem. Okay, and this is evident, this is pretty much seen when you take a look at Rome, when you take a look at the revolutions that have happened. People keep going, we have to overthrow the government. Well, overthrowing the government has got to be one of the silliest ideas available, because society requires a government. Now, if you don't like the way the government is operating, get into office. Do something about it. But you cannot effectively eliminate a government. If you do, what you have is absolute chaos for a while. And then things settle down and other government forms anyway. Okay, so the trick is, let's end the whole concept of overthrowing people. Okay, absolutely. Follow the methods, i.e., at least in democratic communities, the theory is that you can vote people in and out. Okay, do your part, follow that method. Okay, shooting people, starting wars, starting fights doesn't work as well as you might think, because what it does is it sends a message that you got your change happening because of violence. And you can bet your bottom dollar, violence begets violence. This is why the Code of Hammurabi didn't work all that well. Okay, an eye for an eye, a tooth for a tooth. It really doesn't work. Now, there is one situation, and I'm not getting into it in this video. Okay, there is one situation where one-upping the person, because understand something, if you're one-upping them, if you're going the eye for an eye, tooth for a tooth, you're getting back them, you're one-upping them. Do something a little better or a little worse to them to get even. There's only one way I've ever seen that actually work. And I'm not getting into that on this video. Matter of fact, I won't get into that on any video. I will answer the question if I'm asked, but it will not be done on video. Okay, nor will it be done on live radio. There are certain questions that we just don't answer. Okay, primarily because there's too many complications that go with it. Now, when it comes to eliminating the negative things in your life, take a look at the things that you're not personally content with. Those are the things that you need to shift gears with. Okay. And, it really does boil down to paying attention to which way you're going, what you're aiming for, what you're no longer content with. And you don't even have to know what you're changing it to. Okay. All you have to know is what your life is looking like and what you're not content with. If I'm not content, like you've seen me pick things up all over the place, it's because I fiddle. I'm pretty much certain that's what the problem is. If I'm not happy with my glasses being in my hand, show you how painful this is. Change is painful. I've been told this often. I'm not happy with them, I put them over there. Now they're not in my hand. See, we can call that a magic trick because you can't see it. Right. Okay, I'm not content with them there. I can pick them up again. No pain, no muss, no fuss. Now I've got them back in my hand. These are, change is the easiest thing in the world to manifest. Matter of fact, when you think about it, the fact that you're listening to me talk is amazing in and of itself, but the fact that you're listening to me talk, every time I say something, your hearing changes to pick up the sound properly. Okay, and that's just the reality behind it. This is why I say, we can eliminate the things you're not content with. Okay. Matter of fact, improving your hearing really boils down to an issue of concentration. Now, yes, hearing does collapse, and all the concentration in the world in some cases creates a problem. Okay, it just doesn't work as well as you might like. However, considering the fact that the human, and I call it fact because, well, frankly, it's what I believe. As far as I understand it, scientists have already proven it as well. And that is that every cell in the corporeal body is replaced every 7 years. Now, with this in mind, and bearing in mind that every cell has a perfect blueprint of a perfectly healthy body, if your body is changed every 7 years, there's no reason you can't overcome, there's no functional reason you cannot overcome any illness that your body is fighting. Net result, my eyes are healing. Okay. They're getting stronger as I go through things that the doctors have said should be crippling my eyesight. Not the least of which is a stroke and diabetes. Which the diabetes, I'm pretty certain, is getting turned around quite nicely. Lord knows I don't have any functional use for it. Well, that's annoying. My coffee's out. I'll be right back, but I'm going to pause this so I can go get it. Okay, that critical problem is dealt with. I've got my coffee back. Priorities first. In all fairness, if it had been a real priority, I would have got it before I started recording. But I have a really bad habit of doing that. But anyway, that being said, when we take a look at the way our life is, take a look at what you're not content with and start making alterations to that. And the reason for that is very simple. When you eliminate all the negative things in your life, all you're left with is that which you're content with. Now, I've talked a fair chunk about this one little project. Okay, again, like I said, I set my planning up to get 5 pages a week done. Well, I just managed getting another 10 done today, And then, well, in all fairness, it's more than that. Because I got 10 proofread, plus I wrote another 3. And maybe 5. I scanned through, oh, that's it. Because I went and scanned through, or rather expanded another 5 there. So again, I'm looking at upwards of 20 pages again today. The idea is very simple. Birth of the Wolfpack is out. The sequel, which is the end of an epoch, I'm in the middle of striving to complete. Because my goal is real simple. And that is get the sequel out by the end of the year. Okay. Now, one of the nice things about this is I've got a goal in mind. I wrote down what I'm aiming for. And I'm taking care of it one step at a time. Okay, very critical when you're aiming at doing things. When we talk about this list, keep the projects that you've got to 15-minute to half-hour runs. Okay, that way if you get called away, you feel like you've got something accomplished. You know, today's been a little screwy. I'll have to take a look at that. But I keep a list handy, and we've talked about that before. By doing that, it helps keep me on track. Now, the most difficult part in all of this is remembering that the only person on the planet that can be successful for you is you. Okay, one of the biggest holdups that I've found that really hold people back is a low self-esteem or a low sense of self-worth. Okay, now, as a matter of fact, I think I'm going to go and do this. Ouch, that hurt. I'll be right back here. I'm just not going very far. I've talked about this before, so I figured I might just as well come and deal with this. Now, this was done the old-fashioned way. I went outside into the sun with a magnifying lens, and I literally made this sign that says, I am worth it. Now, I'm not suggesting you make a sign out of wood. Okay, I did because I could. But a simple sheet of paper that says, I am worth it. Put somewhere where you can see it. Okay. When you have somebody like that, when you have that sign, it will remind you that you actually are worth putting the effort into. People talk about helping other people. Okay, going out of their way to help other people, and I am a strong believer in that. Now, personally, I don't give to charitable organizations because the overhead eats most of that charity. So what I do is I turn around and help people around me. Buy groceries, buy a meal for a stranger. Don't ask, I just do it, right? Or forgive a debt that is actually owed to me. That's my way of making certain that the person I'm helping gets the benefit of every dime that I'm using without paying for the overhead. This is just my personal opinion on how I do it. And don't get me wrong, many of the charitable organizations out there do phenomenal work. They've got some really great people. Okay, and I'm not saying don't help them. As a matter of fact, I'll tell you exactly the opposite. Because you may only have $3 to help somebody with. But if you and 10 other people put $3 together, now you've got $30 and you can actually buy somebody a meal with that $30. Well, charitable organizations work in the hundreds of thousands of people with $3. Okay, there's a lot more that can be done that way. And we have to remember that money is not the root of all evil. Money is simply another barter system. It just happens to be the current one. And frankly, in my eyes, it's easier to move a dollar bill than it is to move a cow. A lot less trouble on the cleanup, too. So we take a look at the way the world is. Okay. And the imperative part is help each other. You know, the people that have the wherewithal to help others, it is your responsibility to help the people that are struggling. Now, of course, the neat little part there is that it's a responsibility of the people that are struggling to do their part to make the most of the help they get. and to not just take advantage of the people offering to help. This is why I don't go around going, oh, ask me for help, and I'll give you a hand. Because what that does is it gets people, and I watched it one day ages ago. Okay, there used to be a food truck that come along. Now, the food truck would come out to help the people that were having trouble eating. You know, they were having trouble getting and putting enough money together to put food on the table. So the truck would come out, sad to say, only once a week, but that's all they could pull off. The thing that got me was the number of families that I saw going to this place that was handing out free food, and it said right on it that it was for the homeless. And these people would come out, and they would go and they would line up and get the food first. These were people that had money. They could afford to do it themselves. And they did it so much that the particular food truck had to quit. It just couldn't keep up. Okay, and that, to me, that's where the travesty was. Okay, now, yes, I'm a little bit of a strange bird. Okay, I call myself a spiritual guide. Okay, because I look at all the packages at the same time. I do not pick one and go, that's the only path. You know, the reality is that when if you're going to listen to somebody, and they're going to tell you they're a spiritual guide or they're here to help your soul sort of thing. You know, I've returned to show you this great path. Come to me. I live up in the middle of nowhere, and I've got all these you know, fencing compounds, and we've got lots of guns. Give us all your material stuff, because materialism is evil. Give it to us, and we'll take care of it. There's something seriously wrong with this. Okay, and you might want to consider whether this is a good path. If you do not come away from a meeting feeling more empowered, okay, if you feel like you are still behind the 8 ball, you're still struggling with your life, if you are not coming away from some sort of a meeting where you're feeling like they are actually helping you see the world in a better light, okay, you might want to consider finding a different road. Because if you surround yourself with people that are always going, life is so miserable, the weather's terrible, you know, I've got no money, I'm just you know, I'm in horrendous shape. You know, if you surround yourself with people that are always talking about how bad their life is, instead of how good their life is becoming, or the goals, the dreams that they have about where they'd like their life to go, if you talk to people that are caught up in the idea of life is always going to be miserable, okay, you cannot fix these people. You can certainly turn on the light and tell them, hey, look at this. Some of them will reach out and go, okay, I'm going to try and look at that. Those people you can help, because those people are looking to change for them. Talk to any doctor that has a patient that's got cancer, or that's having lung problems, and the doctor goes, you've got to quit smoking. Well, that's coming from somebody theoretically in the know, and most smokers that are told by a doctor, you've got to quit smoking, don't. Because they don't get it here. They don't have that connection that they require ending it. Now, in my case, it took me a long time, and this is why the support of the people around me and the encouragement I got to actually start doing the videos was absolutely invaluable. Okay, net result, like this video today is getting put out a little later than I would have liked. But it felt like like something was really missing, which is why I came to do it. Okay, why I came to do it at this time, so I could get it out today. Okay. Now, the nice part about it is you put a list together and you start working on that, and together we can make this world a better world for everybody concerned, pretty much. Now, there are always going to be people that are miserable. Okay. I swear I've met some people that seem to enjoy being miserable. Okay, and I never did understand that. I personally don't like being miserable. This is why I stayed away from people for so long. Was because of the fact that I got so fed up with hearing people complain about how miserable life was and doing nothing to change it. And I mean nothing to change their own life. Like, for instance, picture staying in a house that you're just absolutely terribly disgusted with the way the house looks. Your house. I don't like the fact my dishes are out. Get off your tail feathers and do the dishes. Okay. But if you're not willing to get up and change your own world, you can bet your bottom dollar 2 things are going to happen. 1, it's not going to change. And 2, if somebody does come in and change it, if you haven't got it through up here and connected the mind and the heart, then somebody else straightening out your room or straightening out your house isn't going to have a lasting effect. Point in fact, from what I gather, like people that win the lottery, the greater majority of them tend to be in worse shape 5 years after they win the lottery than they were before they won it. Now, sure, they had a good little run and they might have had some fun with it. Lord knows, when I first started this year, I got a lot of money that came in. Okay, and I managed to get myself debt-free. Problem was that I didn't actually correct my thinking. Okay, and it's only been this month that I figured out what I was doing wrong. Now, of course, in all fairness to me, it did take me 56 years to get to the mess that I'm in. And it's only taken me 2 to get my head turned around so I know what I'm doing ineffectively. So that is changing for the better now. And I'll know by the end of this month just how well it changed. Okay, this is just one of those goals that I've got for me, to get things reorganized, to make sure that I get on the right track. But it's one of these things that I can tell you the tools that I'm offering you right now are the exact same tools that I personally use to change my own life. I do encourage people, ironically enough, I think that's the right term for it, much as I don't go to church myself. I don't go to a temple. I don't go to a coven. I'm very much caught in my own little world in that. But I do encourage you as individuals to find a church, to find a temple, to find a coven, something where even find a group. Okay. Now, some of you will turn to places like AA and NA, Alcoholics Anonymous and Narcotics Anonymous. Okay, to find some sort of a way of coping to get your life back in order. I strongly encourage you to do this. Okay, the fact that I only teach 3 laws in my own home. Okay, and I only teach the 3 karmic laws. Be true to yourself. Do unto others as you desire them to do unto you. Energy out, energy in. Okay, those 3, if you look at the guidelines that you're following, and think of it this way, whether we're talking religious, spiritual, or business, take a look at the laws, the guidelines that you're following, and ask yourself, those guidelines, do they fit in any one of these 3 that I've just listed? If the answer is no, please drop me a line at one of the contact points below this video and let me know, because I have not found one that doesn't fit in them. And it would be a fascinating discovery in my eyes. Okay. So take a look at that. Give us a thumbs up. Subscribe to our video. Our whole goal with the journey, is to get the message out to everybody on the planet that every individual is in the same place. You're all exactly where you are right now. And it's from this point in time, this moment right now, that you've got the ability to change the way your life is going. But you're the only one that can do it. Okay. And the reality is you cannot change, you cannot control how other people see you. Okay, or what they say, or what they tell you to do. You can only control your reaction to it. Now, when I was growing up, I didn't have the self-esteem to talk to my parents, never mind a stranger. Today, I'm sitting in front of a camera. Well, in all fairness, I'm sitting in front of a camera and I'm talking to myself. which, that sounds a little odd when you say it that way, but my goal right now is to take this message to everybody out there. The paupers, the millionaires, the politicians, the clergy, the specialists in the metaphysical fields, your researchers in every field. Get the message to everybody, every age, that together we can make this world a better place. Okay, now there's all sorts of rumors out there about what's happening. Okay, is there going to be disclosure? What's happening with COVID? When is Christ returning? When are we going to get these breaks? When is society going to straighten out and get a savior? Well, here's the thing. Number one, okay, as far as COVID goes, follow the news. That's the only way you're going to find that one out. My personal belief is, frankly, it's working itself through. Humans are adapting. And considering the fact that, from my understanding and my personal belief on it, is it was around way before man was. Okay, so I do not buy into this thing of it was man-made. It was here before man got here. It's just that simple, in my opinion. Okay, as far as UFOs go, they're talking about full disclosure. When is this going to happen? Well, I get a kick out of it personally. Because, well, I've already had my full disclosure. I know full well they exist. Hence why I've written a reference manual that currently holds 69 individual races I've dealt with. That amongst other books, can be ordered. You can see the list of them below this video, complete with prices, and you can contact me on how to order them, how to pay for them, that sort of thing, but I'm the only place you can get them at this point. Okay, where it comes to, some savior coming back, well, here's the funny part. In my opinion, he's already arrived. Okay, and rest assured, he's not overly impressed. But he is not going to come back the way that people think. He's not coming down to pick, here's a few select people. He's not here to do that. It's an all or nothing gambit. Okay, but he isn't here to say, oh, you're more pious than the next. In case you forgot, that has never really worked well. Okay, the whole trick to this is, it is time, and what we're looking to see is people reaching out to people. It's time to communicate. The one thing that seems to have been lost in all of this mess, especially with COVID, but it's been since, really, I think 1956 is where the problem started. When the television came out, there was a term coined for it called the idiot box. And if you take a look at the number of people that stare at electronics and spend hours lost in electronics, okay, it's not really surprising they called it the idiot box. Now, yes, I stand here on a daily basis, spending, half an hour of my day, essentially, realistically, saying the same thing multiple times. But I came to one conclusion. First and foremost, and this sounds really selfish, but it does help me stay focused and stay cognizant of the fact that there are decent people out there, that there is something that can be done. But I can no longer sit by and pray that somebody else gets it done. So I got up off my tail feathers. Thanks so much for the encouragement. Okay, and with that in mind, I will be back again tomorrow. But until then, take care of yourselves and each other, and for pity's sakes, stay positive.